Rainbow Six Extraction is a game that will become an obsession for some, a quick excursion for more, and will feel like an overpriced DLC for many. It has largely been based on a limited game mode for Rainbow Six Siege named Outbreak, which released back in 2018. This has caused many people to be confused about what Extraction is really supposed to be. Is it a DLC, is it an expansion, or is it a standalone title? And I'm here to report that it feels like all of the above. It's polished, the lack of PvP makes it feel markedly different from Siege, and perhaps most importantly, it offers a great opportunity to new players who have not gotten into Siege. It's fun, but whether or not it's worth your time is a whole other question. A question we're going to delve into in this video. Of course, thank you to Ubisoft for providing the review code early. Rainbow Six Extraction features a very simple gameplay loop. You have a roster of operators at your disposal, with some being locked behind certain level gates. Each has a unique skill and loadout options and specializes in different combat, stealth, or tactical approaches. Each also has their own level and gains new abilities like improved damage resistance or ability power as they progress. And to gain experience, you'll take these operators out on missions that feature 3 unique objectives that randomly change. You also select the difficulty you want to engage with based on the level of your operators. The harder the difficulty, the better the XP payout. You can also play with up to 2 other players, though you can play alone if you prefer. The game will automatically scale based on your party size. It's certainly more fun to play with friends on higher difficulties, but it is certainly grindable solo if you want. You'll seek out the 3 objectives in each level, each of which is locked in their own sub-areas of the larger map, with each subsequent task rewarding more XP if completed. If you can't manage to get through all 3 objectives, you can extract early, taking the XP you've earned and avoiding a potential disaster if your whole team dies. Because if you die on a mission and your teammates are unable to bring your body to the extraction site, your operator is left behind, and you have to try to rescue them with another character to avoid that operator losing about 1/3 of the total XP that they've gained. And that experience loss will also affect your overall level and can cause you to lose even multiple levels worth of XP if you lose one of your higher level operators early in the game. Furthermore, every time an operator takes damage on a mission, they will reflect that damage in the main menu when you're selecting your operator for the next outing. In other words, they will stay injured after you complete the mission, and it's only when they've been left behind that they will be able to recoup that damage that's been lost, similar to how games like Darkest Dungeon work. This means that you will regularly be taking different operators on subsequent missions instead of the same one repeatedly. This shakes everything up so you never settle into just one operator with a set of skills or weapons that you become reliant on. You constantly will be trying new things. And admittedly, this is something that some will love and others will hate. And I don't blame you if this isn't your thing. But I will say I personally like it. They forced me to level up multiple operators and to not become overly reliant on any. Paired with the aforementioned system for MIA operators, it works really well because when one high-level operator gets left behind, you'll have another one to go in and rescue them. Though I should mention that as of right now in the game, you can rescue operators on lower difficulties than they were lost in. In other words, if you lose an operator on the hardest possible difficulty in one of these areas, you can go in and rescue them on the easiest difficulty with an operator that's brand new and that you've never played with before. You don't have to go back into the same difficulty version of the level, something that feels a little too forgiving to me. I personally would have liked the higher stakes option of pursuing a high level, high XP payout mission with the understanding that if I get an operator killed, it will be very difficult to get them back without losing a ton of experience, though that may just be the masochist in me. But because the game is so forgiving, it never felt like there was a real threat of losing these characters. And even the one time where I experimented and let 3 characters die in a row, they were simply re-added to my roster with the XP penalty applied. It was really anticlimactic and unfortunately made me take this whole penalty of losing an operator much less seriously. Now Now, as you play, you'll unlock new areas, more difficulty settings, new lore, and tech upgrades that make various mission objectives more achievable. Once you've reached level 16, which requires leveling 4 to 5 operators to max level, you'll unlock the Maelstrom quests, which are the endgame levels that are far more difficult than even the critical level before. They have far more enemies, which have a good variety in and of themselves, more mutations that introduce different handicaps into the levels, like acid on the floor or shielding on the nests where enemies spawn from, among many others, and the higher levels expectedly increase enemy damage and aggression. As you play and level up your operators, you'll find that there are always more difficult areas, enemies, and mutations that keep things interesting. And to be honest, this is when Rainbow Six Extraction is at its best, when it's hard. The constant arena changes thanks to the mutations, the elite enemies, and the increased damage numbers keep things interesting. Nothing's quite as satisfying as taking on an immense challenge and barely making it out alive. But don't get it twisted. Rainbow Six Extraction relies heavily on repetition. If you don't like running through the same levels repeatedly with slightly different objectives, you're not going to enjoy this game. But to be fair, you probably wouldn't like Rainbow Six Siege either. This isn't an objective critique of the game. You either don't mind the repetition involved in grinding out a game like this, or you do. You're neither wrong nor right depending on where you land on this topic. It's simply personal preference. Now, there are also a good number of weapons to choose from, and each has their own attachments and upgrades. They all feel good to use and are highly responsive, but I have to note that all of the shotguns feel like they lack damage and punch. I really just don't think they're viable at higher difficulty levels, especially if you're even half decent at landing headshots and hitting weak points on enemies. A lot of the more difficult opponents, such as the Apex, require headshots to be landed repeatedly to deal any notable damage whatsoever, and their attack patterns don't exactly welcome close-range combat, so the shotgun really shouldn't be bothered with as far as I'm concerned. The classic Siege tactical items are also here, like the wall reinforcements, but they are rarely actually needed. Most rooms where objectives are placed within are open enough with multiple doorways and windows that using your default 3 reinforcements will do effectively nothing in the ensuing fight. Reinforce one wall and the Arcanes will simply rush through the door next to it, or simply punch through one of the countless destructible walls which you didn't reinforce, which, for the record, do feel great. The ability to shoot through walls, glass windows, and peek corners with the lean mechanic really adds to the experience. Without these mechanics, the game would feel significantly stiffer, but being able to scan for enemies, take them out through walls, and then extract without ever alerting the hordes is a great feeling. What isn't a great feeling, though, is that many of the tactical items play too similarly. The impact grenades, stun grenades, glue grenades, and even the claymores just feel like reskins of the same effect with different colored smoke. The only reason I found myself changing which I used in a given mission was that each area has studies which are key to leveling up. They're even the sole thing that affects the completion percentage on the home screen for each area. Some of these studies ask you to stun certain enemies, others may want you to kill elites with melee or explosives. It's very random. Honestly, it just feels very arbitrary, and to be perfectly frank, it isn't very fun. I personally can't stand these types of challenges that are based purely on checkpoints, and I'm disappointed that they must be completed if you want to level up at a decent pace. And speaking of pace, there's enough here to drive roughly 35 to 50 hours of gameplay, I think, if you find the core gameplay loop interesting and fun, like I did. It's one of those games where you can turn your brain off and just play with friends. I would describe it as a junk food game. It's pretty easy to pick up, you'll consume a lot of it before you even realize you're doing so, but it won't give you any significant substance at all. It doesn't do anything novel or truly unique, but everything that the game attempts, it does fairly well. While I don't think the game is worth full price on launch day, I can definitely say that with the game being released on Game Pass day one, it's worth a try, at least if you have an Xbox or PC and a Game Pass membership. I would definitely recommend you give it a shot in that case. Otherwise, I would wait for a sale or try it at a friend's place with the Buddy Pass that they're looking at launching soon after release day. It's a good time. but it still feels like an alternative game mode for a larger, more fleshed out title. But that's it from me. Thank you for watching and subscribing, and make sure to join my Discord through the link tree in the description box below to enter automatically to win one of a couple copies of Elden Ring that I'm giving away, just to say thank you to all of you for being wonderful subscribers. I love you all. I'll see you in the next video.